All right, the last part of our notes is what we've done most recently is completing the square. So we're going to take equations that are in standard form and put them in vertex form. Actually, we're going to look at the one in the gray over here, the harder one. This is one people were having trouble with yesterday, and we went over a little bit, but I think you might need a little more practice. So, steps are right here. First thing we need to do is separate c from the first two terms. So this minus 1 is going to be out at the end all by itself. And we're going to have some things in the parentheses. Now, don't automatically write these first two terms in the parentheses, because if there's a leading coefficient other than 1, so if a is something other than 1, we need to factor that out, just the first two terms. So in this case, we're going to take a negative 3 out, just of these two terms right here. The negative 1 stays off by itself. So if we divide by negative 3, this becomes x squared. This one becomes negative 4x. All right. In order to complete the square, we need to have positive 1x squared here. So if there's anything other than a 1 in front of the x squared, we have to factor it out of the first two terms. So that's our first step. Just split things up. We're going to get c at the end, take a out if it's not just 1, and then now we can complete the square. So that's step 2, completing the square. We have to take b over 2 squared. Now, the b we're using is the new one that's in the parentheses. So negative 4 over 2 squared. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared, positive 4. So we're going to add 4 on the inside of the parentheses. Now, if there's nothing out in front of the parentheses, we would also have to subtract 4 at the end to keep things balanced. But since there's a negative 3 out here, that changes things. Right? This plus 4 on the inside technically needs to get multiplied by negative 3 because that negative 3 is out in front of the parentheses of this whole thing. So this is like having a negative 12 that we're adding on the inside. So if we're putting in negative 12 to even things out, we have to add positive 12 on the outside. We have to do the opposite. Right? So that's what we've got here. We've got y equals negative 3 times x squared minus 4x plus 4. And then at the end, we end up with plus 11. Now, the last part is to factor. Now that we've completed the square, now we've got a perfect square trinomial, that can be factored. Right, remember, this is going to be x minus 2 times x minus 2. It's always half of this middle term. But the easier way to write that is just x minus 2 squared plus 11. Right, so this is a little tougher when there's a number out in front. You need to remember to factor it out. Then you need to remember to multiply by what you're putting in to account for this. And then after that, it's not too bad. I want you guys to go ahead and try number 1, but this one right here, it's going to be easier because there's no number out in front. And I want to see if you can do it in under a minute and a half. Go. 1 minute. 30 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see if you did it right. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and separate C, so the plus 13 outside of the parentheses. There's nothing to factor out here. There's nothing out in front, so it's just the x squared plus 8x inside the parentheses. So that's the first step. Second step, half of b squared. So 8 divided by 2, we get 4. 4 squared is 16. So we add 16 on the inside, nothing out here to multiply with it, so we just have to subtract 16 on the outside. So we get x squared plus 8x plus 16 in the parentheses, minus 3. And last, we can go ahead and factor that. So this becomes a perfect square trinomial. So we can factor it into x plus half of this, 4 squared, right? Because 4 times 4 gives us 16, and 4 plus 4 gives us 8. All right, that's it. Remember, your other review is due tomorrow. Right? You have all sorts of problems that are similar to what we did here. Study over this sheet, and good luck on your test. Don't forget, Panera review tonight from 6:30 to 8:30.